Okay, so I'm just going to record this video is for those of you that were away today, which was a few of you actually, so I hope you're all feeling chipper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what we did today, so what everyone in the class did today, and the tools that we looked at. So this is the first time we've kind of used Photoshop. I will use this one here. Yeah, it's the first time we've used Photoshop, so I'm going to go through the steps and some tools and kind of reiterate the words that we're going to be using. And then also you can come back and you can watch this, so if you forget a certain step or something like that, you can come back and watch the video anytime. So even those that were there today might want to come back and have a look. So the first we're going to look at is obviously here's Photoshop. So you were all going to make your Braemar postcard, and yeah, I had a good start on it today. Some of the people have got through a lot of this. So here is my final postcard, and you know, Winston makes a cameo. So I might just hide that, and I'll show you quickly what we've got here. So I've just grouped everything. So here are our layers. So we talked about layers. We talked about how you can hide them and unhide them, and depending on where they are in the order from top to bottom is how they'll appear. So if I move this image, say, above those, you can see it's now above those images, okay? Or if I move it all the way to the top, didn't need that effect. It's now at the very, very top of all those images there. So you can see it's now covered everything else, okay? And if I bring it back down again to where it belongs, there it is in the back there. Okay, so let me bring that to where it was there. Here it is. So let's have a look at my layers. So you can see I've got some layers up here where I've got those separate images in the lettering. So, you know, I've got some pictures of students here. I've got the Dame Elizabeth award. I was going to say Dame Edna award, but that would be strange. And yeah, again, Winston and a few guys here. And then my background image is my nice big large image. Okay, so you would have all taken photos with your iPads for these images in here, which is fine because they're quite small. So the iPad camera is fine for that. And what we're going to do next week, we're going to do it today because of the rain, is we're going to use the SLR, and I'll show you how to use an SLR because it's cool. And we'll take a nice big high-res image that you can use for the actual back of your postcard. But yeah, so here are my layers. You can see my text layers there. Okay, you can see the greetings from up there. It's just a layer of text. And I've got some effects on there as well, like a shadow and some stroke too, which give me that black outline. Okay, so this is kind of what we're going to be making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the start. I'm going to make a new one. So this is where you're going to start off. So you open up Photoshop, make a new document, and you'll see you've got these drop-down options here. Okay, paper, international paper, and they're quite confusing, so we're not going to worry about those. What we want is to do web, and you'll see we've got a few resolutions down here. That's like the size of your image. So to get an idea, this size here, 1280 by 1024, that's the size of your iPad screen. Okay, it's the resolution of the iPad screen. Actually, I think it's a little bit less, but we'll use that. And so whatever you do here will look nice on your iPad. It won't be too big. So we're going to use that, and I'll create a new one. And then we have this blank white canvas. It's called a canvas, okay? And you can see it sitting here as a layer, and it's locked as well, which means I can't accidentally delete it or do anything silly like that. So there we go. And like we said, Photoshop is made of layers. So if we want to make a new layer to begin with, we click this one down here. If you leave your mouse over anything for more than a couple of seconds, it'll actually tell you what it does. So create a new layer. And there we go, we've got a new layer to work on. And every time we do something new, we're going to work on a new layer. Then we've got these tools up here, okay, which is the move tool, and we'll call it the rectangular marquee tool, or I call it the select tool because that's easier to say. And we've got the magic wand as well. But what you might see on yours when you open up Photoshop at school is it might look like that, which is not what you want. So whenever you've got this little arrow here in the corner of these icons, it means there's more under there. So if I hold my mouse for a few seconds, I can choose some other ones. So I'm going to choose magic wand. And then we've also got our pen, our eraser, and our text tool. So this first task, this Photoshop postcard task, is designed so you can start learning some of these tools. Okay, and so each little project I do, you're going to learn a few more tools and techniques. So when you get to that big project I've got at the end, you'll be fine to go. So first things first is we're going to put text in here. You know, we need to put our Braemar College in here. So if I go to my text tool, so again, I'll hold it for a few seconds and it tells you, and I'm going to type it in there. So let's go Braemar College. Okay, and I'll just move that across. So you can see I've just clicked the move. It's got a box around it, and I'm going to move that there. All right, back to my text tool, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a enter in there. Mine's a little bit out of whack because I was obviously playing with this earlier. There we go. Braemar College. All right, and that's a pretty good font too. So the font that I've got is nice and thick. Okay, so you know you wouldn't want to choose a font like that, for example, because you couldn't put your pictures in there. You wouldn't see them. So that's why I've chosen that font. It's called Cooper. Cooper. You're too young for hanging with the Cooper. Yeah, Cooper Standard. And there we go. Now I want to make that bigger. Okay, so again, I'm on my move tool here. So what you do, if you want to make this bigger, you go to your select tool, we'll call it, and if you right click, you'll see something called 3 transform. Now 3 transform means make it bigger. So if I click on that one, I now have a box, and we've got these little, they're called control points, but there's little squares here. And if I move those, you can see I'm making it bigger. At the moment, I've kind of made it, a little bit out of whack. So I'm just going to escape that. So right click, 3 transform, and if I hold shift, that's better. It keeps it in proportion. So there's my Braemar College, and there we go, ready to roll. All right, so you'll notice on my image back here, I had some little kind of curved, all right? I also had some fancy pants 3D stuff here. We can't actually do that on the computers that you guys are going to be using. You can't actually do the 3D stuff. You can do it in B3, but you can't do it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to film another little video that shows you how to do the 3D stuff. So just because you may want to know how to do it. And I'll put that up separately. So I won't do that right now. So there's Braemar College. So to make it wavy, I guess is the technical term, all you need to do is have your text tool selected again, and you've got this one up here with a T with a little sad face under it, but it basically makes warp text. So if I click that and then choose some of these, I'm going to go flag because that's the one I've used, you can see it automatically makes it flagged, and I can change that, how much I want on there. Okay, so I'm going to put that to about there. So it's a nice curvy Braemar College, and hit OK. So there we go. There's our curvy text. If I go back to my other one, you'll see I've got this big thick black line around it, which is cool because it really defines what's inside there. And how you do that is, here's my layer. Now if I right click that layer, you get all these options here. There's a fancy 3D one, we can't use it. So what you're going to do is blending options, okay? And that means what it's going to do to this layer. So if I click that, I get this window up here, and I can do some fancy things here. I can bevel it and emboss, which makes it look kind of 3D. I can put a texture on it. I can give it a shadow. I can make it glue. I can make it look satiny. I don't know if that's satin. Color overlay, so I can change the color. I'll turn that off. Pattern overlay, outer glow, and a drop shadow, which is what it's used for a lot. So what I want to do is I want to give it a border, and that's called a stroke. So if I click here, there we go, and there's a stroke around it. Now if I increase the size there, you can see I can make that thicker or smaller. So I'm going to make it nice and thick like that. Excellent. Now there is my Braemar College logo, so it's pretty much ready to go. Now what we want to do is when you're happy with something, you're like, yep, that's cool, that's how I want it to be, you're going to rastersize it, okay? Which means, make it final. But what I like to do is I like to make a copy of that layer, so I'm duplicating that layer there, just in case, maybe we want to go back and change something. So I make a copy of it and then I just hide it. So it's just there as a backup, okay? So I'm going to now rastersize that. Okay, say rastersize, which makes it like sorted, and then I'm going to rastersize that style. So there we go. That's one layer ready to go. So now it's time for our photos. So if we grab a photo, now how you do photos, how you get photos into Photoshop, the easiest way and the way you're probably going to do it the most is you drag and drop. So I'm just going to drag an image. This is from history actually, and I'm going to drag it in there, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, and there it is. It's ready to go. Now you can see my layer. Okay, it's above the Braemar College, so it's above the lettering. So if I pull that down, it's now under the lettering, okay, which is cool. Also, this little icon here, okay, basically what you need to do with that is if I want to kind of edit this image, okay, I want to do something to it, I want to erase something on it, okay, it won't let me because what it's doing is it's making like a reference of that image. So it's saying here, you know what, do you want to rastersize it so I can do something to it? Yes, I do. There we go. So now I can erase it. All right, so what we're going to do, oops, undo, I want to have that image under a couple of these letters, okay? So it's behind it now, which is good, but I actually want it to be behind that red there. So the easiest way to do this is you want to delete all of that red, okay? And that's where we go to our third tool that we're using today, which is this magic wand tool. Now if I get that and I click that red, you can see it's selected everything that's red. All right, or if I click the black, it'll select everything that's black. So it tries to select everything of the same color. If I hide that and I go to this layer, for instance, and I hit there, it's trying to select all that gray. That one's trying to select all the peach, all the brown, etc. So yeah, pretty cool. So back here. and back on that layer. So you're always going to make sure you click the layer you want to work on. So I'm going to select that one, and then I'm going to press Shift, which means you can see the plus that comes up, which means, all right, that as well, and that as well. And I'm going to hit delete. Gone. Okay, so really, really simple. There is the letters gone. So now I can move my photo under there, and I'm going to say that's where I want it to be, and I'm ready to go. So now, still a little bit different. If we go back, you can see mine fit in perfectly with those letters. I haven't got anything behind it. So if I go here, you can see I've got all of this back here, and I don't want that to be there. So I can do two things. I can erase it by using the eraser. Okay, now you see I've got a cross. That's because I'm not on the right layer. So I go back, select the layer. I can erase that, you know, go around there, make it look nice. Okay, do it really quickly. Go through. All right. Da, 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 da. Okay. Well, you get the idea, okay? But obviously I've got to be careful here. You know, it's quite tricky. I've got to bring the size down. If you want to change the size of the brush, okay, I'm using the brackets, which you'll probably see on this video anyway. I'm using those. And there you go. And that works, okay? And that works because that black line was really thick. But if that was really thin, that would be hard to get that nice look there. You can't see it. So I'm just going to undo, which is Command-Shift, and I can go back a few. There we go. So the better option is to use our Magic Wand tool again, because it's really, really handy. So what I'm going to do is I want to select that B, but I've got to go back to the Braemar College layer. Now if I click there, you can see, all right, cool, I've selected everything that's in that B. I'm going to do the same by holding Shift for R, and the same for A. So now it's selected everything that's in there. And you can see with the little dots, if I go now back to that layer, the arrow in the eye one, you can see it's still got that. So if I hit delete now, it's actually going to delete just, I'll show you, just those letters because they're selected. But I don't want that. That's kind of done the opposite of what I want. I want to get them to stay and delete everything else. So back to our right click, and you can see it's got this thing called Select Inverse. Now inverse means opposite, essentially. Now if I click that, there we go. So now it's selected, you can't really see I guess, but it's selected everything except those letters. So now if I hit delete, there we go. They're gone. I'm going to clear it out, and perfectly in the letters there. If I hide that, you can actually see there it is there. And that's it. And that's kind of the process we're doing. And you'll do that for all your photos. Okay, so for every photo you're going to put in each of these letters, you're going to bring it in and go through that process. So really just the Move tool, the Select tool, the Magic Wand tool. And they're the ones you're going to use. And of course, make sure everything are on new layers. Okay, so that way they don't interfere. If I wanted to change something, it's on a separate layer. It's easy. And also remember, you know, that raster size. That's a tricky one. You know, if you bring in a photo, it's going to say, hey, do you really want me to edit this? Yep, then raster size. Or if you want to edit the text here because we did an effect, then raster size. So raster size is the word of the day. But that's it. There's our letters. So we'll fill those letters up, okay, and we'll put our image in the background. And then after this, I'll show you some of the cool fancy effects I've done. If I hide that group and, whoops, hide that group. And I show you what I've done here. You know, obviously mine's got this kind of rough paper look, and I've got some shadows here, and I've got a border, and it looks like it's a crinkled old postcard. I'll show you that later as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the start of it. So for those that are away, yeah, watch this. Obviously you haven't got Photoshop at home, so you can't do it. But, oh, unless you do. But at least if you watch this, you kind of have the idea of what we're doing. You know, you'll know those words, and then we come back in next class, you'll be able to start straight away, and I'll be able to help you out. So cool. And yeah, I'll put up that video of the 3D stuff too for those that are interested, because I know a few of you were. All right, see you guys.